students, welcome to Top Scholars. Today we are going to discuss about a chapter which is metals and non-metals. We are going to study about the previous year questions, that is from the year 2019 to 2023. So let us look at the representation of how many questions will be asked, right? So we will be discussing the questions from the 1 mark, 2 mark, 4 mark and 5 mark. There are no 3 mark questions for this particular topic. And starting from the year 2019 to 2023. All the questions, like how many questions were asked for every year. Okay. So for 1 mark, there were around 6 total questions holding 6 marks for you, right? But this was into the year 21, 22 and 23, right? So you have 1, 3 and 2 questions respectively for every year. Then if you compare the 2 marking system that we have, so there were 2 questions from the year 2021, so holding total 4 marks for you, right children? Then you have 4 mark questions. So there were 2 questions in the year 2022 and 2023, total 2 questions holding 10 marks for you. And then lastly, we have 5 marker questions. We have 1 question in the year 2019, 1 in the year 2020. So total 2 questions holding total 10 marks for you. So by this table, children, you can understand that this topic is so important because the weightage of the total marks which are given here is so much high. Right? So if you look at the graphical representation here, you can see that every year they are going to ask you some or the other form for these questions from this particular chapter, right? And it was highest in the year 2022, holding around 4 questions for that particular paper, right? So into this whole chapter, students, we will be understanding that all the elements that we have into the nature, and we will be differentiating them about one particular property which they show, which is being a metal or a non-metal. If they belong to the metallic property, what are the properties or characteristic features they enlist? And if they belong to the non-metallic group, what are the characteristic or properties they enlist? So we will be discussing about all of those elements and their various characteristics into this chapter. But today here in this video, students, we will be going through different types of questions which are there from different papers. So let us first begin from the year 2019. The very first question that we are going to study is a long answer question which is giving you 5 whole marks. So you have to list the tabular form of 3 chemical properties on the basis of which we can differentiate between a metal and a non-metal. So we have to differentiate between the 3 properties here. So you have to then give reason for the following as well after you have formed that table. Correct? So you have to state most metals conduct electricity well, and the reaction of iron oxide with heated aluminium is used to join cracked machine parts. So first you will be discussing about the 3 chemical properties on the basis of which we can differentiate whether a metal is a metal or an element is a non-metal. Like for example, metal will show luster. Correct? So that's a property which you have. So depending upon such properties, but here you have to show about the chemical properties. Depending upon the chemical properties, differentiate here, okay? And then you have to give reason. Most metals conduct electricity well. Why? Because they are good conductors of electricity. So you have to state that over here. The reaction of iron oxide with heated aluminium will help you to join machine parts. How it is helpful? You have to give the reason for that. Next question is from the year 2020, children. Again, a long answer question holding 5 whole marks for you. So here they have given you carbon cannot reduce oxides of sodium, magnesium and aluminium to their respective metals. Carbon cannot do that. Okay. You have to state a reason why. Why carbon is not able to reduce them into their own respective metals by oxidation. Where are these metals placed in the reactivity series? Which metal is most reactive? Which is the least reactive? Right? How are these metals obtained from their ores? How can you produce them from that ore? Take an example to explain the process of extraction along with chemical equation. So I know students, it is a pretty long question. That's why it is coming under the category of long answer question holding 5 marks for you. But if you observe this question, they have just taken 3 metals and they have asked you different variations or different varieties of questions. So it's not always you have to give a paragraph for the, for writing for 5 marks for here. You can also segregate your answer and answer accordingly to different types of questions which are placed over here. Okay? Next question is from the year 2021. In the year 2021, we will be checking out the 3 questions. One is a very short answer type question giving you 1 mark. Okay. Why is potassium kept immersed in kerosene? What is the reason for that? Such a simple answer here, so that they do not come in direct contact with air. So you want to prevent their contact with air and moisture. That is why you kept it immersed into water. That is why you keep it submerged or immersed under kerosene. Right? The next question is, what are amphoteric oxides? Such a simple question, children, for a short answer question giving you 2 marks. What are amphoteric oxides? These are metals which can react with both acids and bases. Such type of metal oxides which react with both acids and bases. Such type are known as amphoteric, and you have to give an example for that. Next question is again very easy. Gold and silver are used for making jewelries and a few metals are used for making cooking utensils. What is the reason for that? Why we are not using gold and silver for cooking? Because at a certain temperature it will start melting, which is not good for cooking. That means you cannot cook into those vessels. Whereas there are certain metals such as aluminium, then you have steel. These can be used for cooking, because when you heat them up onto that high temperature, the metal will not only melt, correct? That's why it is more beneficial. So here, by answering these simple questions, you can easily score marks. You just require a very basic information regarding the topic to answer these questions. Next, students, is from the year 2022, a very short answer question holding 1 mark. Which of the following oxide or oxides is or are soluble in water to form an alkali? Okay. So you have given with options Na2O, SO2, K2O and NO2. You have to determine out of which of these oxides are soluble in water, that is sodium oxide, sulfur oxide, potassium oxide and nitric oxide. Depending upon what options do you select, you will be able to get the mark by selecting the option here. So here in this question, students, it is from the year 2022. It is a very short answer type question holding 1 mark for you. Okay. The question here says sodium reacts with water to form sodium hydroxide and hydrogen gas. So let us determine the reaction first. So you have 2 sodium molecules. Okay. Let's say if we just write the reaction first and not even the balanced one. Okay. So you have sodium reacting with water, giving you sodium hydroxide and hydrogen gas. Okay. So from this only you can start balancing, children. So see, here you have 2 hydrogen molecules, but on the product side you have 3. That means something you have to increase, right? Let's say we make it up to 2 here. So now you have 2 hydrogen molecules over here. Now here you increase it up to 2. Again your hydrogen will be increased. Now you again increase up to 2. Okay. So now you are getting 2 sodium molecules. So again 2 Na. So you have 2 sodium. Okay. Now let's check the balancing part. 2 sodiums. Okay. You have 4 hydrogen. 2 and 2, 4 hydrogen. You have 2 oxygen molecules and hydrogen is released into the form of gas. So this will be the balanced equation, correct? So you are using sodium into the solid state, the water into the liquid state, the sodium hydroxide into the aqueous state and hydrogen gas which is released into the reaction. By looking at the option, students, you can directly mark this one. Why? Because only this option has H2. Rest all of the options shows 2H2 gas, correct? So let's compare. So you have 2 sodium molecules into the solid state, 2 water molecules into the liquid state, 2 sodium hydroxide molecules into the aqueous state. So your final answer would be option B. So students, this question is from the year 2022, which is a very short answer type question giving you 1 mark. Okay. Which one of the following structure correctly depicts the compound calcium chloride? You have to determine which of these is going to correctly depict the calcium chloride. You are provided with 4 different options. While solving this question, students, you have to keep in mind regarding the valencies of both calcium and chloride molecules. Okay, if you can easily apply your information about this topic, you can answer the question here. The next is from the same year, children. It is a case-based question giving you 4 total marks. So here, let us study the case study first. A student took 4 metals, P, Q, R and S, and carried out different experiments to study the properties of the metals. Some of the observations were, all metals could not be cut with knife except metal R. That means metal R is very soft and you can easily cut it with a knife. Metal P combined with oxygen to form a metal oxide. When you are combining metal P with oxygen, it is forming a metal oxide. And this reacts with both acids and bases with water. That means it is an amphoteric oxide. You get this information from this, children, that this one is an amphoteric oxide. Next point which is given is P did not react with either cold or hot water but reacted with steam. Q reacted with hot water and metal started floating. R reacted violently with cold water and S did not react with water at all. So the student was studying upon all of these four metals and these were all observations which he made. Okay? And what all observations you know, you have to answer accordingly. So out of the given metals, the one metal which needs to be stored used kerosene. Such a simple question, we know which metal need to be stored using kerosene. These metals which you are storing in kerosene cannot be coming in contact with your air or moisture or any kind of water. That's why you store it into kerosene. Out of the given metal, the metal Q is iron, zinc, potassium or manganese. What information they have given about Q? It reacted with hot water and metal started floating. That is the information they have given you about Q, right? So accordingly, you have to select the correct option. Metal which forms amphoteric oxide. Amphoteric oxide is formed by your metal P. It is combining with oxygen to form a metal oxide which is reacting with both acids and bases. So your metal P is reacting with amphoteric oxide and then you have to show the increasing order of reactivity of all the four elements. So in the detailed study of that case study or the information of the experiments which is given, you can answer all of these questions to score 4 easy marks. Now it is from the very recent paper, children. It is from the year 2023, a very short answer type question holding 1 mark for you. So you have a metal X. This is used in thermite process. When X is burned, it gives an amphoteric oxide Y. X and Y are respectively. So you are provided with 4 options, Fe and Fe2O3. That means what is the metal and the metal oxide? Fe, Fe2O3, aluminium oxide, Fe, Fe3O4, aluminium and Al3O4. Okay, so which of that particular oxide will be reacting with both acids and bases? That's why we call it as an amphoteric oxide. That is what you have to determine into this question. The next question is an assertion reasoning type question, students, which is a 1 mark question. You are provided with different statements, 2 statements, assertioning statement and a reasoning statement, and out of the given 4 options, you have to select the answer. Let us go for the question first. The color of aqueous solution of copper sulfate turns colorless when a piece of lead is added to it. Lead is more reactive than copper and hence displays copper from the salt solution, right? So, you are provided with an assertion and a reasoning statement and you have to select the correct option from that. So, whether the assertion is right, the reasoning is right, whether it is doing the correct explanation of the assertion or either one of is false or true. So, you have to select the option accordingly. Same for the year 2023 students, you have case-based type questions. I believe case-based type questions are more easy because they give you a lot of information already there. Almost all metals combine with oxygen to form metal oxides, correct? Now, metal oxides are generally basic in nature, but some metal oxides show both basic as well as acidic. If you observe any kind of a small detail into these questions which we have solved up till now, children, many places they are asking you about this amphoteric property. This amphoteric property is repeated many places. In some or the other way, it is getting involved into the question. So, it is very important that you become familiarized with all of these important concepts here, right? So, they are saying that metals will be showing both basic as well as acidic nature. Different metals shows different reactivities towards oxygen. Some vigorously do while some do not react at all. So, you are provided with different questions here and you have to state your answer. What happens when copper is heated in the presence of air? You have to determine the chemical equation. Why are some metal oxides categorized as amphoteric? You have to give one example. Complete the following equation. Na2O plus water gives what? Or Al2O3 reacting with sodium hydroxide. So this is a question which is for 4 mark case study type question, or you can also opt for other question here. The other question that we have, on burning sulfur and oxygen, a colorless gas is produced. Write the chemical equation for the reaction, name the gas formed, state the nature of the gas, what will be the action of this on dry litmus paper. So you have to just do one reaction, that is sulfur and oxygen, and a colorless gas is produced, and you have to write down the details or the properties of that gas which is produced. And even by writing single pointers, you will be able to get easy 4 marks because there are 4 different questions and the answering gets more easy. So students, up till now, we observed the different types of questions from this topic which were asked into the previous 5 years. Now let us give it some try to some difficult questions that we have here. The first question is from the year 2020, which is a 5-marker very long answer question that we just saw. So carbon cannot reduce the oxides of sodium, magnesium, aluminum to their respective metals. I have to determine the question first, why? So let us look at the solution here. According to the reactivity series, if you look up into the reactivity series, both sodium and magnesium as well as your aluminum are more reactive. As they are more reactive than carbon, these elements are placed above carbon into the reactivity series. As a result, being less reactive in nature, carbon is unable to reduce it into oxides because it itself is very less reactive. The second question is, where are these placed into the reactivity series? We just saw these are placed before the carbon element. And how are these metals obtained from their ores? How can you obtain it from the ores? When you have these high reactive metals, they are obtained from the ores by electrolytic reduction, or we can also call it as simple electrolysis method, into which you have 2 electrodes onto which the molecules or the ions will be separated. By this method, you can separate the metal from their ore. So this electrolysis of molten NaCl will help you to separate the sodium metal from the sodium chloride solution. The next question here says, take an example to explain the process of extraction along with the chemical equation. So here you have what will be happening into both of the electrodes. At anode, you have Cl minus reduced into half Cl2 plus 1 electron will be released. And at cathode, you have sodium ions reacting with the electrons giving you chloride solution which will be into the solid state. So overall reaction comes out to be 2 NaCl giving you 2 sodium into the solid state. Your sodium metal is separated, okay, giving you chloride gas into the gaseous state. So here we answered the final question as well, which is to explain the chemical equation for this reaction. Now this one is the case study, children, that we just observed for 4 marks, correct? So first you have 4 different types of metals that we have and different experiments which were conducted. All metals could not be cut with knife except metal R. Metal P is combined with oxygen to form metal oxide, reacted with water and it reacted with both acids and bases. So we know that this is amphoteric oxide. Okay. P did not react with either cold or hot water but reacted with steam. Q reacted with hot water and metal started floating. R reacted violently with cold water. S did not react with water at all. Now let us try to answer the questions that we have here. Out of the given metals, we are provided with 4 different questions. Let's start with the first one. Out of the given metal, the one which needs to be stored used kerosene is R. Why? Because R reacted violently with cold water. It was given into your case study question that R is reacting violently with cold water. And if any metal is reacting with water, you have to keep it submerged into the kerosene so that it does not come in any contact with the atmosphere. The second question, out of the given metal, the metal Q is which one? Here, metal Q appears to be magnesium. What is the information given regarding to magnesium? That is, does not react with cold water, But yes, it reacts with your hot water to form what? Magnesium hydroxide. And as it is forming magnesium hydroxide, you would see it will start floating due to the bubbles of all the hydrogen gas which are produced near that magnesium hydroxide sticking to its surface. That will cause the floating of that metal. The third question that we have, metal which forms amphoteric oxide. Which is the one which is forming amphoteric oxide? We just saw the amphoteric forming metal is P. You can take an example, it could be aluminium, zinc and iron, because all of these can react into the oxide form with both acids as well as bases. And in the last question, students, you have to determine the increasing order of reactivity of all of the four metals. So if you look at the reactivity, S is the least reactive and R is the most reactive metal. So it depends on the ease of reactivity that we observe. As your R is showing more reactivity, even into the question it is given that it is highly reacted with cold water. So R is the most reactive one, whereas the S will be the least reactive one. So students, another question that we have is from the year 2023, again a 4-marker question. Let us look at this question first. Almost all metals combine with oxygen to form metal oxides. The metal oxides are basic in nature, but some metal oxides become amphoteric as well. That means they will be reacting with both basic as well as acids. Different metal shows different reactivities towards oxygen. Some react vigorously while some react no at all. What happens when copper is heated in air? Why are some metal oxides categorized as amphoteric? You have to give one example and you have to complete the reaction. Either you can go for this question or the second one. On burning sulfur and oxygen, a colorless gas is produced. You have to write down the following questions which are asked regarding that reaction. Let's solve the first one before. So, if you are heating copper in the presence of air, what will happen? When copper is heated, it is exposed to the oxygen which is present into the air, forming copper oxide, that is black in color. Correct? Now, if you write down the balanced equation, it will be 2CS, that means 2 molecules of copper reacting with oxygen into the presence of atmosphere. It will be producing copper oxide. This is black in color. It is solid black in color. Then, those metal oxides which are produced will be showing basic as well as acidic behavior. Those are known as amphoteric oxides. Correct? So, example is aluminium oxide, zinc oxide. Both of these can be considered as amphoteric in nature. Then you have to complete the reaction which is given. So, you have sodium oxide reacting with water, giving you sodium hydroxide. Then other equation is aluminium oxide reacting with sodium hydroxide, giving you 2NaAlO2 along with water. Now for the second question which was asked earlier, you have to first determine the reaction sulfur reacting with oxygen. It is producing a colorless gas. So here you have sulfur reacting with oxygen producing SO2, which is a gas, right? And it is colorless in nature. So you have to write down the chemical equation first. So what do we call it? We call it as sulfur dioxide. That is the product which is formed here. Then its gas is acidic in nature. And if you do the litmus paper test, because it is acidic in nature, it will change the color of the litmus paper for a very shorter period of time. Because it's a gaseous molecule, right? You don't have into higher concentration. So if you check it through dry litmus paper, it will show you the color change. So students, don't you think that this question which was asked, it was such a simple question, the reaction between two molecules, and you can write very easily the properties accordingly. So children, I hope this was really helpful to you for all the questions that we have discussed into today's video. If you have any other doubts or more questions that you need to solve, please do mention into the comment section. Like, share and subscribe for more such interesting videos. So, until next time, thank you and happy learning.